Hey, what's up? Hope everyone's doing okay. All right, so today is, or this week is week 7 of 50. And so for this week is Numbers 5 through 22. And Numbers is interesting. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I get kind of lost between um, kind of Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Exodus is, obviously exciting, and Genesis is exciting, and Exodus. And then when you get to Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, it seems all kind of similar. It's just a lot of law, and then there's some kind of action in between, which is I think is pretty cool because then you have like the law, and then there's some kind of hidden gems in there, like some pretty interesting events that happen, and in Numbers 522 at the very ending of it, I think it's Numbers 21. It has Balaam, I think, the prophet Balaam, and then the ass that talks to Balaam, and it's weird because in the Bible there's not very many situations where animals talk, where God or an angel opens the mouth of an animal. I don't think there's any other than the donkey that talks to Balaam, and it's just an interesting kind of you know if you just read in the Bible and you're just reading about these events that happen, all of a sudden you're in Numbers, and it's like an Easter egg almost. It's kind of like this weird thing that happens, and you just come across like this just random event that just happens, and they're trying to get Balaam to curse the Israelites, and so like when the Israelites are going through the different lands, I forget which king it was, but it's just really interesting kind of event that happens, and I don't know if Easter egg is the right word for it, but it's just like this hidden gem, I guess, and and the New Testament talks about Balaam too, but it's just kind of really interesting the way that the donkey goes down and the way that the interaction. I think that a lot of people kind of just dismiss this event, but I think it's a very interesting event that has a lot of meaning to it. And there's a lot that happens here with Balaam in the cursing. But it's Numbers 22 and Numbers 23. I think it goes a little bit more into it. Numbers 24. It's just a very interesting event. And so you don't really know too much that happens with this. But later on, I think it's in one of Paul's letters, and one of the letters of Paul, or one of the letters later in the Bible, it talks about how Balaam he was bad, and eventually he did try to curse the people, even though he said he wouldn't because God. He's like, I can't curse anybody unless God tells me to, but he ends up changing his mind, I guess, according to the letters that you see, according to the letters that we have in this account. So it's very interesting how this event turns out. So, but Numbers, the first day that I had was the vow of a Nazarite, and so in the Old Testament they had the vow, and it was you don't drink any wine, and I think you grow your hair in a certain way, and so you don't do any of these things, and I think it was for a if you were like dishonored, or you're trying to repent or something, and so this is very very interesting, and so this is different than a Nazarene because Jesus was a Nazarene, and it's like, okay, his hair grows long, but that's not the Nazarene. That's not the vow of the Nazarite. And so things get kind of confusing. And so, a lot of times we have depiction of Jesus with long hair, and some people say, well, because he was a Nazarite, so he had long hair and he couldn't cut it. But that was a vow of a Nazarene. I'm pretty sure that's different. And so a lot of these things that you hear, unless you actually read the Bible yourself and kind of go through it yourself, then you don't really know which ones to believe. And even if you do read it yourself, it becomes kind of difficult to differentiate between what you're told and what you learn, because you have to unlearn what you've already learned, and it's really hard to get that out of you. So I think a lot of this kind of so-called common knowledge that the church or that Christians kind of perfulate, or they just kind of go in between each other, isn't necessarily accurate. And I think it's very detrimental. So, but the Mal Nazarene is pretty interesting. So I had that on Monday, was the kind of the thing I was reflecting on, and then on Tuesday I had the Levites, and the Levites were interesting because that was they were the uh the priests, as well as they were the priests, or they were like the religious people. Obviously, they did like the tabernacle, and they were did the sacrifices, but they were also like doctors, and so it was really interesting. And all the sacrifices that were brought to the Levites or all the sacrifices that were done, they were like the Levites to have to eat and to do with what they please. And so this was like their payment. And they weren't allowed to have any land. And so they didn't have land, and they had a different inheritance. And so they were given different things. And so it was very interesting because they were separated from the rest of the church. And at first, it was God wanted all the firstborn of the Jews, both of beast and of man, but then he decided to change, or he changed his mind, or he decided not to do that, and it seemed to be that he had the Levites were sanctified to him instead of all the firstborn, since he took all the firstborn of Egypt, and this was like this kind of symbol that he that he used, and so it was a very interesting event that happened. And then so Wednesday I had children of Israel. The thing that I reflected on Wednesday was the children of Israel murmuring against the Lord and Moses. And so the children of Israel, lots of times they've murmured against Moses and they murmured against Aaron. One time Moses was like, these people are about to stone me. And so you have these people that went through all these different things and they see God's power and they still murmur against God because, thirst and hunger is a real difficult thing to endure. And so it's easy to say, okay, well, these people, how could they possibly do that? They see all God's power. But, once you have enough pain, then it becomes really difficult. So I understand. I mean, I feel like I can somewhat understand why they did what they did, but still God was very wrath. And so it wasn't the right thing to do by any stretch of the imagination. And they messed up quite a lot. And they murmured against Moses a lot, all the time. They murmured against him, and then they had a coup d'etat. They wanted to overthrow him a few times, and they just really just went against Moses over and over and over again. Of course, though, this is an expansive, I don't know how many years, 40 years they're in the desert. So although they had these coups d'etats, it might have been only one every 5-10 years or something like that. So there's a long space in between each of these, but they really go against Moses. And then Moses eventually, he messes up because he struck the rock twice for the water to come out. From my understanding, it's because the first time he didn't have enough faith that God would do what he said he was going to do, so he actually struck it twice. And so this is why Moses wasn't allowed to go in the promised land either. So everybody messed up except for Joshua, and I forget the other guy, but everyone else and that original party messed up quite a lot. And obviously Aaron messed up because he built the calf when they threw all the earrings to him. They made all the gold when Moses was up in the mountain. So everybody messes up except Joshua the son of Nun, and I think the other Caleb. I forget what it is, the other guy, but other than that, man, they all just kind of they messed up. It's interesting. And then so you have that, and then on Thursday I had Israelites not believing they will possess the promised land. When they first came in there and they scouted out the promised land, they saw the giants and they're like, these guys, we are to grasshoppers to them. And it's true that the land flows with milk and honey, but there's a lot of fence walls and we're not going to be able to get through these things. And so they didn't believe that they were going to take the promised land. And I think they messed up on this. And then they God was really upset with them. And that's why I had to wander again. So they had that on Thursday, and this is a really big event, them not believing that they'd have the promised land. And it just shows, I think the state of the people at that time, even though they saw all these miracles and they saw what God could do, it just was I think there was lots of different powers and lots of different kind of sorceries and lots of different magic and lots of different spiritual events that happen. And so there was, because, when the Egyptians, when God would turn the water into wine, the Egyptians would do a similar thing. Or when Moses had his staff and it would turn into a snake, and then the magicians did the same thing. So there was a lot of kind of spiritual things going on. And so I think the people just didn't quite understand how much God was superior, how much God is superior than to everything else that's happening. And so I think it was just difficult for them. And everyone really messed up. And I don't know if you can even imagine people back then in the situation that arose. And I think that although a lot of things are reciprocal, I think that new things happen. And so I don't know necessarily think that the same events that happened in the past happen now. I think that we have the same struggles, but the events are different. The playground's different. And so although man has the same struggles, the same things different things are played out. Because I know we are made a spectacle to the angels. And so I think that the angels learn from us and learn from man. And the environment changes. And I don't know if that's just to keep things different or what God's purpose is for that. But I do think that it changes. Do I know that? No, I don't know. But I think that's what's happening. And then on Friday, I had Aaron. And so, Aaron was interesting because, although he messed up quite a lot, or he seemed to mess up quite a lot, mainly with the calf, and then he went against Moses, I'm pretty sure. And I feel like he just made some mistakes. He was God's high priest, and they had the ephod on him, and they gave him a lot of high honors. And so I think it shows that a lot of times when you mess up, doesn't mean you lose God's grace just because you mess up, as long as you repent and try to do better. And I think Aaron's one of the best examples of this, as far as really messing up, but then still becoming God's high priest, and or a really high part in his plan for the people. And so it's just very interesting. So yeah, that was I want to make sure it was Numbers 5-22. So I just read this yesterday. I read it yesterday because I had to work today, and so I didn't have much time. But it's just I do enjoy it. I don't know necessarily so far, at least like rereading the Bible again. There's nothing so far that I've come across that I didn't really enjoy. There's not like a week that I've come across where I didn't enjoy, or I didn't find it applicable to my own life and to my own situation. And so I do enjoy it. I feel like it brings me a lot of power and a lot of comfort. And it's hard to imagine sometimes, I think, now in the place that I am, the life that I'm in right now, and the things that are happening around me, to be able to not have the Bible and not be reading it, because it just brings me so much comfort and reassurance about what's happening, because just the world around me just seems so evil and seems so anti-Bible, and it just seems so anti-God. And it just, I find a lot of comfort in reading the Bible and reading these things. And otherwise it's just really, really discouraging and kind of scary around me, reality, because everybody just, it's just amazing, I feel like, in my situation at least, how evil everyone is around me, and how I feel like they try to hope for and plan my downfall. I mean, not just like my downfall in life, but like my whole entire downfall in existence. I don't think a lot of them are satisfied with me dying. They want me to like go to hell or something. Like they want me to lose God's love. So they're not just satisfied with destroying my life. They want to destroy my soul. And so it's very scary. It's because I mean, I think that people around me understand that God exists, and so they're not after my life. They're after my existence. They're after my soul, and that's kind of what they're going for. And so it's just scary, man. It's it's intense. But at any rate, hope everyone's doing okay. And I'm sorry I'm always tired on all my videos. Hopefully, I'm gonna get a new camera and a new mic soon, so my videos aren't trash anymore. And hopefully, I won't be so tired, so I can put on better content out there. But right now, I'm just trying to, even though I'm working a lot. You know, I typically work about 60 hours, and I have my son here full time, and I'm doing a lot. And so I'm tired a lot in these videos, but I'm still trying to make them every week, even though the quality isn't great. At least I'm still trying to do it. But I hope everyone's having a good day, and I appreciate anybody that watches this. And if you made it all the way through to this part, I mean, that's pretty good for you. God bless and happy truth seeking.